My name is Vincent Hebbelynck. I'm Head of Technology Incubation and Corporate Venturing at Proximus, and I'll talk about our IoT and more specifically our long-range, low-power strategy and journey we've been through during the last 24 months. So from ID, from customer requests, towards commercial launch, and I'll illustrate this with a few use cases that we've been launching in the market today, and also looking forward into how we see this evolving within the next months. Good morning, everybody. So it's really my pleasure to share the journey of Proximus with regards to LP1. Hopefully interesting for you. And actually, for those who didn't follow our rebranding, Proximus used to be called Belgacom, so we are the incumbent in Belgium as an introduction to that. So we often speak about a revolution. So it's about revolution and a rapid deployment that we're talking about. So a revolution, of course, it's the fourth, the mechanical, the automation, the internet, so the Internet of Things, but not because of the billion of objects we foresee. Not because of the data it will gather, but because of the intelligence that will come out of it. So that's really what will change, and we're really at the beginning because the objects are still not connected. And by the way, if you imagine, all those billions objects will have to be physically, manually connected. So there's still a lot of work to do that. Another aspect of the fact that it's a revolution, that we really see an impact in all the verticals. So most of the time we have those specific verticals targeted, the verticals we target as well. But a small highlight on the engineering, the industry, the automation of the industries, because that's a revolution for the telco. The telco used to be providing telecommunication services, also most of the time ICT services, but with the IoT we will get really deep into the processes, into the manufacturing processes. This sector is not the most eager to get directly on the IoT train today, but I think that's the sector with the biggest potential change. So we were a few years ago, 2 years ago, in this context. We are gathering, and we are in front of a revolution, an IoT revolution. And as a telco, we used to have our classical M2M service, but how do we approach it? And it was a general reflection also when we had a CEO change as well about our innovation generally. So how do we approach those things? And one of the key principles we started with is indeed to go through a lean circle. So the lean innovation, so to the build, measure, learn. So just try small, measure, learn, and iterate. And that's really how we've been through this low power wide area story as well. We had another few principles that were important for us to get quick and to answer towards this revolution. It's first of all about the customer. So we started with demands from the customer we couldn't answer. I will get into a bit more details with regarding to this. This picture there represents the fact that we need a light governance. So we did set up a specific governance much faster that could get to a quick project deployment. A dedicated team, a ring-fenced budget, so important we had the own budget, and the last but not least, the support from top management. So that's a picture of our CEO. So that was really key as well in this story. And then about indeed the different technologies that we are facing. So that's exactly the moment where we were getting requests from the customer that we could not answer with what we had at that time. And that's specifically in this low power, long range. So we had to connect many very cheap objects, and we could not do that with our M2M solutions. So the question came then, the question came from the customer. We wanted to pilot those, how to choose a technology, because we indeed have long range, short range options, the licensed, unlicensed. And actually we tend to see now that analysts tend to say that there is a market for everything. So used to be important as well if you want to grab a part of the market to be in all of those, and that the solution at the end of the day was not the decision of which technology to make was not that key at that point. So we decided to join the LoRa at that time, and the main reason was because it was there. So we had a customer request, and we wanted to try things out, and there were things there that were available. We decided to join the alliance. It was back in 2015, so it was just starting. We used to be a founding member, and actually it grew quite impressively since then. Also on the different or national networks or smaller networks, because we are indeed with LoRa speaking about an unlicensed spectrum, so no need for a license. Grew quite impressively, not only about the networks but the ecosystem as well. And so coming back to what the story we've been through at the end of 2014, we got this the green light from our executive committee to start the pilots with a few customers that we had identified, specifically in the smart building, in the tracking area as well. We had those demands. With, like I said, during the first half of 2015, chosen LoRa because it was there. And we've then decided to launch, to join the alliance and to launch an RFP to start this first deployment, because we had really good feedback from those pilots. And we decided in July 2015 to do a national rollout. So it was not, we did not cover the entire country at that time, but the point was that we wanted to be big enough to really be considered as a key player into this area. Because what is really key there is that we realize that in unlicensed spectrum, you are competing with any service integrator that could go there, put an antenna on the roof of the building of an industry and just deploy the service. So it was really important to make quite a good noise and be considered in the request that would come from the market. We have been starting the deployment in August 2015 and announced our commercial launch, our commercial product in a little bit more than 1 year ago. So last year with the following coverage. So like I said, we wanted to cover the major cities, urban areas, also the logistic centers, the harbors, the airports, and that's how we've been into the market by then. So this is covering 50% of the population, although when you talk about IoT, the key metric is not always the population, it's about the objects that you want to cover. But apart from that, also 25% of the territory. So it was just at that time good enough to announce the deployment. I'll come later to where we are now. So by the end of this year, we'll have the country covered. There is also, of course, an important aspect to look at is if you're covering outdoor, indoor, deep indoor, which is important depending on the use cases. So what are we offering? Obviously, the connectivity. You start from the connectivity. That was also the start of our thoughts when we're looking at the technologies. We always come back to what we know well. It's about the connectivity. But we wanted indeed to offer a complete service towards our users, and we realized this is not something that we could do alone. So I heard earlier today we have to bet on a vertical, so that's what we are doing as well. But to go to the other verticals, it's important to partner. So we are beyond connectivity offering an IoT platform with added value services, but that is always also giving some transparency towards the different access technologies that we have. So another representation, you have the objects, the different kind of access networks. So tend to be transparent to that. I think you had a discussion with Tele2 this morning. I heard them in the past. I was not there exactly through the entire discussion this morning, but I think Tele2 has also this kind of way to go to market. And in the middle, you have indeed the application part with all the partners to which we address those different verticals we were discussing. I confess this is a slide that is too complicated. The message that I want to pass here is that a very important target group that we want to get as well, to address as well, is the one of the developers. So we realize that we need also to have a completely digitalized offer towards our IoT and other assets. I'll come back to that, but towards IoT as well. So you cannot only talk about an end-to-end solution. A lot of our customers, and certainly those who are starting their new solutions, because we are in a new market, but also the more established one, also ask digitalized access. So through APIs, they also want to access it. And this is reflected in our offer that we pushed into the market. It is called ENCO. ENCO stands for Enabling Company. Through the website has been launched a few weeks ago, stands enco.io, and that's really the offer towards the developers in this market. So what are we doing there? Actually, different assets, not only IoT, but we are also adding cloud services, also cloud channels. So channeling to an Azure, channeling to an Amazon Web Services. Also adding other parties' assets that we then make available towards the developers, and the developers being able to not only develop their application but also market it into a marketplace that we offer them. So that's the message that we have towards them. So it's not about only prototyping, it's not only about building, but it's helping them to industrialize, to scale, and to market their solution, and to sell their solution, and actually sell them to, again, other developers that will add value again. So that's the kind of snapshots of the interfaces they get there. So it's about the asset, which kind of API, and how they can put it, how the marketplace looks like as well. Some examples that we have been putting into our marketplace recently. Also, we had interesting to mention there is our location-based services. So indeed, as well as a mobile network operator, we have a lot of information about, of course, aggregated location information, because we cannot sell individual location-based information, but that can be accessed by the developers as well through this very same platform. Just two examples now on specific use cases that we have put into the market with LoRa. So a classical one, but also one that we implemented in Belgium, is the waste management. So with the issues of not knowing if the bins are filled and not knowing how to get the most optimized way to get those bins. So quite classical use case that we have been implementing. Actually, this was a small movie, but it's a PDF version, so I have no movie here. You can get it through YouTube. So Waste Management Proximus, you will get the movie, but I don't think it's an issue here. So I just wanted to say indeed that we offer this solution with our LoRa network and with those building blocks. So it's about a sensor, our network, so it's about decrypting, about the partners there. Waylay is a startup, a Belgian startup as well, with an IoT platform, and Solvis that is optimizing the trajectory. So together we offered the solution to the waste management company. Another one to develop, pretty important in Belgium as well, still many fuel tanks for heating the houses. So there as well, it's about optimizing filling the tanks. So what are the building blocks there? You have in those sensors, the platform, and the applications. Always the same building blocks with our partners. So where are we now? So like I said, by the end of this year, we will cover the country outdoor and in urban areas indoor and deep indoor in function of the use cases. We are focusing on those specific verticals, and we are looking into 2017 with towards the localization. So you may know that one of the nice features in LoRa is through triangulation doing some localization. Those are tests that are being done now. So we see this in combination with other technologies, because the LoRa localization is a very cheap one, but less precise than a GPS localization, for example. We talk about 50 to 100 meter precision. So we see that with a combination of an accelerometer or potentially a GPS, we can still get a low power consumption, but a great use cases. So we announced indeed a tracker that we put into the market. So that's a device with an accelerometer, a button, but at a very interesting, cheap price. So that's one of the key elements here. Of course, it's the cost, and the evolution of the ecosystem will bring this cost even lower. And the roaming aspect as well is also important. Being able, when you target towards the market, the tracking market, to be able, certainly if you are active in a small country like ours, to be able to cross the border. So technology-wise, so we have indeed our 2G, 3G, 4G technologies, our LoRa today for the low power wide area. So we are looking towards the future. So the 5G and the narrowband IoT, we are not considering that those are completely competing technologies. So there is certainly an overlap, but we are convinced that there will be a market for the different ones. So for example, markets where the power is less an issue, like electricity meters, and where we need to be able to transport a bit more data, a narrowband IoT versus a LoRa may be a better solution. So those are things that we plan to test in 2017, and in function of that take our decisions. I think that making a choice would somehow take a part of the market away. So what we should not do as a telco, we should realize that IoT is not only a market for the telcos. So there is a lot of IoT that is being done outside the telcos, and so getting a presence inside the unlicensed market also gives you a possibility to address this part of the market. So we should not only be telco-centric, I think, here when you're choosing your technologies. So the conclusion towards our customers, so really convincing them to serve the IoT wave. I think there is a lot to win with regards to processes in all industries, but still we realized in 2016 it was still about, with regards to IoT, still about evangelization of the customers. We now see the demands and the RFPs coming massively, so I think that indeed 2017 will be a big turning point with regards to that.